So we began today by talking about what are other common grouping symbols that you have to learn, because there are a lot more than just the ones that you learned in BEDMAS. And so these are the four that you learned today. How do you deal with nested parentheses? How do you deal with a fraction bar as a grouping symbol? How do you deal with a square root sign or a radical sign as a grouping symbol? And what do you do when you have parentheses in fractions? So we started off with this kind of a problem. Nested parentheses means that you actually have parentheses within parentheses. This other one's missing here. So how do you begin to approach this problem? So we brainstormed in class. You guys came up with begin with the most inner parentheses. So that's exactly how you do it. So we began with 30 minus 8, the inside brackets first. And this, a half in front of it, means to multiply. So it's 1/2 of 22, or 1/2 times 22, which is 11. And remember, we just copied down the other steps so we can keep simplifying and simplifying until we get down to one value, which is, remember, the value is the answer when you've simplified it or you've evaluated the expression to one number. So brackets first, then a half of 22. You multiply before you add. Then you add, and we get our answer in our bracket, so we can get rid of the brackets at that point. And then the whole time, we just knew at the end we had to subtract what's in the brackets from 300. And 300 minus 51 is 249. The next grouping symbol is a fraction bar. So this fraction bar, make sure you keep them horizontally on your paper. The top is a group, and so you do everything on top. The bottom is a group. So this is a grouping symbol. It says do everything on top first, do everything on the bottom, and the last thing you do is finish with the grouping symbol, which, remember, this means divide. So that's the last thing you do. So you do the top in order of operations. 2 times 9 is 18, and then you add 4. 18 and 4 is 22. And on the bottom, 15 minus 4 is 11. And the last thing at the end, you just simplify this by dividing 22 by 11, and you get 2. Pretty simple. And then we talked about another grouping symbol. When you're finding the mean, which, remember, is the average of 3 towers of cubes, what that actually means is if I leveled off these towers so that they were all the same height, how many cubes would be in each tower? A lot of you knew that you add the numbers and divide by 3, but you really didn't know what it means. So I like the towers because leveling them off shows you what the meaning of the mean is. And here's a reason to make sure you use the horizontal bar. If you write it with the slash, this means to add 15 and 32, which is 47, plus 1 1/3. And that's 48 1/3. And 48 1/3 is bigger than the tallest tower. So that obviously is not the mean. So don't use the slashy bar because it means something different. This grouping symbol has to go under all 3 numbers. So I simply am going to add first 15, 32, and 4, and I get 51. And then it's 51 divided by 3. It's like I redistributed those 51 cubes into 3 equal towers, and I get 17. So if I redistribute these 32, and I put 2 here and the rest on top of here, every tower would have 17 cubes, because 17 times 3 is 51, and the sum of those 3 numbers is also 51. Another grouping symbol is the radical sign. And the radical sign is simply this symbol that says find the square root. So the radical sign is a grouping symbol. Think of it as a big set of brackets. So it says to do everything underneath the radical first, and then you take the square root of that answer. So the radical sign is a grouping symbol. So first we do this in order of operation. So we get 144 for 12 squared. 10 squared is 100, and now we have subtraction and addition, so we do it left to right. It's all under the radical. 44 plus 5 is 49, and now we can simplify the radical sign. The square root of 49 is 7, and so the answer is 7. And when we have parentheses in fractions, again, this is a grouping symbol, so do we everything on top we do in order of operations. You do the brackets first, and you do what's in the brackets in order of operations. Then you do everything on the bottom in order of operations, and the last thing you do is simplify that division. So we did this first. So 15 is 3 times 5, and 22 minus 15 is 7. This means 14 times this number, so it's 14 times 7 plus 1 on top. On the bottom, we have 500 minus 20 squared is 400. And now to simplify the top, we multiply before we add, so we get 98 plus 1 on top, which is 99, and on the bottom we have 100. So you could leave it as a fraction, 99 100ths, or you can just write the decimal form of 99 100ths. They're the same thing. Okay, then we did the secretary and boss activity. So one of you was the boss, and only the boss could talk. The boss can't write. The secretary only writes and must not talk. And then when you actually finish the problem, the secretary and boss, you could get out of your roles, and the secretary could tell the boss if he or she agreed or disagreed and why, and then we switched roles. So this was the first one. Inside brackets here, brackets there, so you began in here. And the boss pretty much told the secretary to do the 3 times 5 is 15, and 15 minus 4 is 11. This is 6 times all of that, so we have 6 times 11. We finish in the brackets. 66 and 4 is 70. And we copy the rest of our steps down. So it's 2 times 70 minus, the rest of this is the same. We simplified 30 thirds to 10. And now we do this in order. So you multiply and multiply before you subtract. And you subtract last, so we get 110. Okay, then we switched roles. And you actually had to take out the x and substitute a 5. Because remember, x is a variable, and I can change it to be whatever number I want it to be, or you want it to be. But this time we decided to make x 5. So the boss had the secretary copy the problem, then switch out all of the x's for 5s. So 5 and 4 is 9, and this means 6 times what's in brackets, so it's 6 times 9 on the top. And on the bottom, it's 5 plus 11 times 2 is 22, so we got 27 on the bottom. And then on the top, 6 times 9 is 54. 5 plus 22 is 27. We divide next, because we divide before we subtract. 54 divided by 27 is 2, and the very last thing is this subtraction. Remember, this is a grouping symbol, and 5 minus 2 is 3, and that was the final answer. We switch roles again, and now again we've got a multiplication problem of a fraction times a fraction. So we reviewed those skills a little bit after you tried it with your partner first. So this subtraction is 12, this subtraction is 9, so we have the fraction 12 ninths. 12 times 2 is 24, and 4 divided by 2 is 2. I would suggest you always simplify fractions before you multiply. So 24 halves is the same as 12 over 1. Divide them both by 2. 12 ninths, you can simplify this by dividing them both by 3. 12 divided by 3 is 4. 9 divided by 3 is 3. And now we have an easier multiplication problem. 4 thirds times 12 over 1. Top times top is 48, bottom times bottom is 3, and 48 thirds, or 48 divided by 3, is 16. And now we had a radical plus a radical. Again, this is a grouping symbol. So you switched roles again and told your secretary how to solve it. Most of you said that this is 49 minus 24. This is 25 minus 9. You just did all of your squaring first. Then we do the subtraction, and we get 25 under the radical. And we do the subtraction, and we get 16 under the radical. And now you take the square root of 25, which is 5. The square root of 16 is 4, and 5 plus 4 is 9. So after we finished the secretary and the boss, I had you pull out your planners. Time was up. So you have a choice. You can do the basic, 1 through 16 and 27. Show me all your steps. And on the same pages, you could do the challenge, 8 through 23. Show all your steps. And you should get started. Spend about 10 minutes on your project between now and Wednesday, or now and Thursday if you're in Tuesday's class, to get started on that. That's it.